Hi, and welcome to day one of IT Nation Connect 2025. I'm Jessica Jacobs. I'm the Senior Director of Product Support.
And I'm Reese Crosby, one of the individuals on our partner development program. Welcome to IT Nation Connect 2025.
Yeah, we are welcomed here with Manny Rivelo, our CEO of ConnectWise. Welcome.
Good to see you.
And Glenn Mathis, CEO of Integris. Excited to have you guys.
Thanks for
having me.
So let's talk about AI. And it's not really just a tool anymore. It's really a teammate, right? And we've heard about copilots and assistants, but now we're talking about agentic AI. How do you define that for that shift for IT professionals?
It's an evolution. It's really not a shift. It's just the next logical evolution. We've been down this journey of using automation, right? Whether it be workflow automation, or whether it's been machine learning, or you could look at AI. Agentic AI is just the next generation. It's technology that allows you to put more context in place, and it's technology that can self-think, right? Without the need to be heavily programmed. So it's the evolution of that. And the interesting thing is it's early days. Agentic AI is still in the very, very early days because the models are getting much more advanced, which gives you more context over time, meaning it'll become a much more powerful tool.
Yeah, I think it's a big shift. I think Copilot helps you work, whereas agents actually do the work. And so when you think about Copilot, it's great, but it's reactive. And so you have to feed it, you have to prompt it. But with agentic AI, it's actually learning the environment, watches the environment. It can take action on what it sees. So if you take something as simple as a ticket, Copilot will help you come up with the things that you can do to solve the problems, but agentic AI will actually close the ticket, it'll update ConnectWise, it'll update documentation, and it'll ultimately learn from what it's doing. So for MSPs and IT pros alike, there's a massive mind shift change that has to be adopted. And it's not just about layering AI on top of your existing environment, it's about re-architecting workflow and then teaching the digital state to be more intelligent.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is really driving the evolution of AI tools that assist systems that can act independently?
For us, it's three things. I think in the MSP space, it's three big things. It's complexity. So the environment is complex as it's ever been. I think we've done a really good job as an industry of engineering customers and ourselves off-prem into the cloud. With that comes access to a much bigger ecosystem of tools and systems. And so the complexity is such that humans can no longer keep up with that change. I think the second thing is going to be now that you have access to all of this data, you have the ability to leverage that data in a very meaningful way. So you have to learn how to leverage that data more effectively. And now you can use AI in a more secure way to do so. And then I think the last thing is certainly going to be economics. You're seeing a shift in our space where you're feeling the pressure on labor cost, you're feeling the pressure on churn analysis, you're feeling the pressure on doing things better and faster. And so AI is a great way to help you combat all three of those things.
And what I'll add to that is we ConnectWise, are an enabler of AI in the sense that we provide a platform for you to build those capabilities on top and enhance how you run your business. And we basically do that through the centralization of data. Data is the oxygen, if you will, for AI. And then on top of that, layering of services. Services such as PSA, RMM, all the traditional services that MSPs use, all in a unified platform. And then on top of that, we apply AI. And that gives you the capability to run your business, as Glenn pointed out, much more efficiently than you have in the past. And that's our purpose and how we're going to help MSPs drive AI.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think AI evolution is powered by unification of data, of automation, of intelligence, and really working together to enable that autonomy is what we're looking for.
Exactly. And we've talked a lot about AI. We talked about it with David and Brian earlier today about data being the oxygen that's feeding the information. But one of the things we were talking about too, and I think I want to get your insights, is the combination of autonomy and human oversight. So where do you see that balance between AI and the human element?
Well, it's going to start out with not full autonomy. And part of the reason is, as you train these models, you don't want them hallucinating and giving a bad outcome. At the end of the day, It's an assistant to a task or to a job. Can it do it on its own? Yes, I believe over time it could definitely begin to do tasks on its own. The question is, when do you release it to do those tasks? So our view, as we're building AI on our platform, is to allow you to make that decision. The system will automate tasks. You release those tasks to do it on its own or guide it through a human. And I think that's the flexibility that organizations need and the trust, right, that they have to develop with their end customers.
I think Manny's right. I think he hit it nail on the head. I think it's about utilizing AI, and more importantly, maybe even automation first, to handle the chores inside the environment. So you create these guardrails that are built by humans, but you let AI and automation loose on solving for those chores. And then you let humans be in charge of the direction, the exceptions, and the like. And then as that trust grows, guardrails widen. And as those guardrails widen, you have access to more information and ability to create efficiencies and the like. So for us, it's like, you almost think of it like an orchestra. You have the AI is really the instruments. They're very precise. When utilized, they're very effective. But the humans are the conductors. And so it's about timing. It's about rhythm. It's about making sure that you know when to deploy and when to utilize it in a safe way. It opens up more opportunities for security challenges. And so the human side of this will never go away. In fact, you want to be able to, I think AI, or at Integris, we really believe that AI and automation is going to allow us to be, it's going to humanize our interaction with customers more. A lot of people think it's the other way around. But I think letting AI and automation do the chores through the different tools that we use, like ConnectWise, allows us to be more consultative with our customers. It allows us to deal more with that workflow automation and building out those work streams. Which involves a lot more consulting, which I think deepens the relationship with the customer. So in many, many ways, this allows us to be more human with our customers than we've ever been, versus doing a lot of the manual, simple chores that we were doing before with our customers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Coming from the support world and leading the support team, I think when we are utilizing those tools, it does create a better relationship with our partners and our customers, because we have all the data available for us to, come to the table prepared. And like you said, it's an assistant. It's not going to replace us, but it actually does really help us.
Exactly.
And I think more than ever, the user is more sophisticated than it's ever been. I've been in this space 28 years, and when I think back to the early days, people didn't really know how to leverage technology effectively in their business to affect their business. I think the sons and daughters of those companies are now running the companies. They're digital natives. They understand and demand more from their technology, and they want to be more on the bleeding and cutting edge of those human conversations with their own customers. So they're in this ecosystem of data. They need to know, they need a partner that can help guide them towards utilizing that more effectively. We're here now, so now what? And so that's the job of companies like ours, is to create those automations in AI to make the simple things simpler, and to then leverage our skill in the human side of things to be able to consult more and drive more efficiency and productivity in their environments.
Awesome. Yeah. So you mentioned users and the evolution of users. Like now we're talking about AI super users or agent supervisors. So how is ConnectWise helping technicians evolve into these new positions?
Well, that's an area that we've always worked with. Every transformation for an MSP for multiple decades. And a lot of it is education, right? So events like this, ConnectWise, IT Nation, are very, very powerful. We have workshops, we have sessions. We're trying to teach folks how to use AI responsibly. What pace do you progress your organization through? At Evolve, we're doing the same thing. So a lot of it is going to be best practice and learning. This is a new set of tools, as Glenn pointed out, a tool that will augment humans. And there is some fear. There's some fear it's going to replace my job. There's some fear out there. I agree with Glenn. This is an enablement tool. What we will be doing is we will all be either managers of people and or managers of people and agents. And we will be surrounded by this technology that will augment what we do on a daily basis and improve everything that we do on a daily basis. So AI is here to stay. Just like every other technology that's come before, we've leveraged it, we've humanized it, and we're using it to drive our businesses.
I like that.
Yeah, I think companies like ours have done a really good job of historically helping humans manage work. And increasingly, I think we're now going to be building systems that manage the work. And so it's moving more from this tool integration to this workflow optimization. And for MSPs, we really need access to partners and platforms like ConnectWise that creates an ecosystem of access. Because every MSP is different. Every one of our customers from an ICP is very different. And so no two MSPs are the same, and their customers aren't the same. And the problem with a lot of platforms is that they usually build for the common denominator, which is the smaller MSP perhaps. But companies like ConnectWise and other platforms are doing a better job of creating that open ecosystem, which then allows us to put our data into the system. It allows us to create our automations within the system, which then allows us to more effectively build it for what's important to our customers. So it becomes this, the ability to have this workflow automation and orchestration is much more efficient than just using tools to close things, close tasks, and let humans do their work. We're actually doing the work for them through these systems and these platforms. And that's where the 1 + 1 = 3 in the relationship between an MSP and their platform. And that's what they should be looking for when they're choosing their platforms.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think the most successful MSPs are going to be the ones that actually leverage AI and the human component to drive those results.
Yeah.
Humans are going to buy from humans at the end of the day. They're not going to buy from robots, at least not in a foreseeable future.
Right, exactly.
Well, let's transition into some real-world application of this. Can you share, and you've shared a little bit, Glenn, like what are some examples of where AI or automation has delivered measurable results?
Yeah, just in our business alone, we've created hundreds of automations this year, which has created thousands and thousands of hours of efficiency. And for a while, that was the benchmark. Like, let's create time. Let's create more time in our environment so that we can do more of the consultative work. And a lot of MSPs look at that and they say, well, we've saved all this time, we've created more margin, we've created efficiency. But what's more important is what you do at that time. To Manny's point, they're not going to be buying from AI, they buy from humans. And so the more time we spend consulting with our customers at that point is really, we're going to leverage some of that time saved. It's made us better from a churn perspective because our quality of work is better. Humans make mistakes. The right built automations in AI don't really make those same mistakes. So when you can leverage them, it forces you to standardize, which is always better for the customer. And so it's created all these avenues where we are able to spend our time on resources doing more consultative type work, which creates more revenue for ourselves, and it creates better outcomes for our customers, which is ultimately the only thing that we really want, is to make sure the outcomes are there. We're also utilizing AI and automation to identify the right resource at the right time to service the right situation. I have 800 people in my organization. I have to be able to leverage all 800 to any customer situation. Mm-hmm. And the only way I can do that is through intelligent routing and intelligent skill mapping and those types of things. So there's lots of ways in which it's making my platform efficient, which then translates into better results for our customers. But we're now turning those into customer products as well. So we look for chores within our customer environments, and then we automate them. If they have 4 people in their finance team, how do I leverage AI and automation and chore automation to manage that in a way that they only need the one? And I can have the system do all the work for them. And if I can then replicate that towards other 200 of the same customer in the same vertical, then I've created true value for the Integris brand. So those are just some simple ways in which we're utilizing it today.
Yeah, absolutely. Manny, what are you hearing from partners? What are they using?
Glenn represents a great example of a larger MSP, right? So let me come on the other side of somebody smaller, right? An MSP that's a little smaller. Mangano as an example. They're in Australia. I know it doesn't sound, it's not the thousands of hours, Glenn, but they're doing 165 hours a week, right, of savings inside their environment. And they're a smaller MSP. That is significant. And they're using it for things like client onboarding, meaning end user onboarding, offboarding, adding services. They're using our platform, excuse me, the data that's in our platform and the RPA technology that's in our platform. Now, we as an organization are doing a couple of things to even enable that further. Number one, we're integrating everything into a common platform. We refer to that as ASIO, right? And those are business modules that MSPs use. And then we are plowing features into those business modules to make them even better than the products that we had over the last couple of decades. But then we're adding on top of automation more sophisticated AI capabilities. We're going to show some of those at the event here later today, tomorrow, and we're super excited. So we think it's early days, But the more context you have, to Glenn's point, meaning the more data you can infuse in one place, the better you're going to have AI capabilities in the long run.
Yeah, I think we're all super excited to see what you guys are going to show today on the main stage. So beyond automation, how is ConnectWise ensuring that AI takes the human feedback and continues improving? How are we doing that?
That's completely in the platform. As we build agentic AI capabilities, it's got to be recursive and it's got to be learning. So as you interface with the product, as the human does its job, the AI agent should be absorbing that information and you tuning it, right? As Glenn pointed out, adding those guardrails on where you need to. So it's a self-learning capability that we're going towards, and obviously something that you can tune as you move through that. So it will do tasks like, imagine just gathering all the information or automatically dispatching a ticket. That could be done by an AI system. If it reads what's in the ticket, it reads what the complaint's about, who should get that ticket? Should Manny get that? Should Glenn get that ticket? That is time that's been spent, and those are pretty simple tasks.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's admin time that's going to take away from someone working a case to, getting to a customer quicker, because it's going to be based on skills, and we know, the AI Inform can know which person is best to work that.
It's all about time to value.
Yeah.
Whatever that value may be. If they're going through a crisis, how you remediate the crisis. If they're going through, I need a new service, I have a new employee, I need a new computer, I need these kinds of services, how quickly can you onboard those services? So can you react instantaneously?
I think the key point, too, that we haven't talked about that is important, that supports a lot of what Manny's talking about himself is that people want to start with the buzzword soups of the day, like AI, and they're all interested in what that end state is. But the reality is there's a lot of foundational things that have to go into place. To do a lot of what he just said, you have to have structured, organized, standardized data. And it's not as sexy as thinking about the AI component of it, but it's foundational and it's fundamental. And so you can do anything with the amount of data that we have, but it's not easy to do when it's unorganized. So when you do all of the things he just said, if those things are identified in ways that it's easy for the agentic AI to look at it and learn from it and manage it, then it's really it's really easy to know what the outcomes are going to look like, and they're more predictive. And so a lot of times I tell MSPs, don't worry so much about what AI is out there today, because there's tons of it, and there will always be tons of it. Get your house in order relative to how you think about data and the data lakes and the Rosetta Stone that goes into understanding the terminology and how you structure things in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, a key takeaway from this is AI is most powerful when it's learning from people.
Yeah.
And, that is our job, and that's, that's still going to be a task that we need to do.
Yeah, and in a way, we haven't appreciated, some companies have, some have not. Data's always been the lifeblood of business, no matter how far back you go. The only difference is now you could accelerate the decision-making capability that in the past was stored in a place, you produced reports, humans reviewed it, and got access to that information. Now what you have is these agentic capabilities that are taking those tasks and instantaneously enabling that for you, right? But it's always been about data, and great organizations have focused on their data.
Yep, exactly. We've always heard that saying, like, whoever owns the data
is king.
Is king, exactly. So, and one of the things you also said, Manny, you were talking about the early days, right? We're in the early days of AI. And I remember back in the 2000s when we were talking about this whole cloud thing and the amount of time it took for adoption for people to really start realizing what the cloud could do for them. So what do you see as far as the future for AI? What do you see ConnectWise's AI roadmap in the next 2 to 3 years?
Oh, it's transforming everything. I mean, if you go back, OpenAI launched ChatGPT v4, version 4, about 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And to most of us, we weren't sure what that was, right? We started playing with it, we saw, oh, that's kind of cool. Today, it's transforming every business, and today, it's the center of our event. It's how AI is going to intercept the MSP and how it's going to, how they need to transform themselves, right? To be much more strategic and think about AI not only for themselves, but for their end customers who are also going through that massive transformation. As I pointed out earlier, we're an enabler of that technology. So we're going to do a couple of things. One, consolidate the various different products into one. That allows you to have commonality of tools. So simplification of your tool set, commonality of tools, single logins, a single administrative rights, all that kind of stuff. Number two, help you centralize your data. Not only the data that we provide, how you run your business, but through an open set of APIs, how you ingest more information so that you can provide better context. And then number three, all the way from RPA, all the way to agentic, continue to build a portfolio with additional capabilities so you can do it natively there. If you want to do it outside the product, you could also do it outside the product. You could take our data and export it, right? And use other AI capabilities, but we're trying to integrate it all into a platform that's open. And that's our vision for it. And obviously, you'll be able to moderate how autonomously you let the AI applications work through permissions that you're going to grant different users or different tasks.
As an example, whenever Manny emails me, it's ChatGPT. It's not him anymore.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can tell.
You mean we don't all do that these days?
I've never used Chat.
He uses version 3 still.
Yeah, I'm still in 3.
So Glenn, this is a question maybe a little bit more for you. So
Yeah.
what advice would you give to partners who are starting to experiment with AI?
I think transformation really starts not with what AI should add, but where can I use AI to replace? And again, mostly on the orchestration of workflow and process and data. So I'd say start small, but start now. I think it's really critical to have a plan built around that. But then again, don't start with the AI part. Start with the data side of things, and then choose wisely with your partners. Make sure that you're aligned with ones that think the same way that you do in terms of how you're building this Rosetta Stone for transformation in your business. And then make sure the team's very curious, and then try some things, learn from them. I think there's going to be lots of opportunities to partner with people. There's going to be lots of opportunities to build things internally, and there's going to also be lots of opportunities for MSPs like ourselves to acquire things. And I think the combination of all those things with a really curious mindset about what's possible, with the idea of how do you create outcomes for your customer base and then for their customers, I think that's the key thing. It's not about the new flashy buzzword pretty application that's out there. It's more about how do you leverage that. So what can AI replace versus what AI should I use is really more important.
I agree completely. This is all about starting small. Begin to experiment and do that. I advise people to do a couple of things. One, think about your data architecture, because if data is the oxygen of AI, you have to think about that architecture. Number two, think about your tools and simplification of your tool set, primarily because the more tools you have and the more sprawl you have, the more data sets you have all over the environment, and you want that data to come together. And then, as Glenn pointed out, start with a simple workflow, start with a simple task, start with something that is repetitive, and you could guarantee that if you do it the same way every time, you're going to create benefit. Because repeatability gives you consistency, right? Which gives you better predictability and outcomes to that end user. So just start there, and then begin to change the culture inside your organization through education. And I agree, one of the greatest words I hire for is curiosity. People that are curious, they want to understand what's possible. Build an organization that's curious about what AI can do for their future versus an organization that's fearful of it. Because it's going to be here. It's going to be here for a long time.
I mean, as an MSP, we should be thinking every day about how do we shift work left, which means all the way as far as possibly can to AI and automation as much as possible, which doesn't mean in our world necessarily that humans go away. It means that, in fact, as I said earlier, it means that we've humanized things more because we take those resources, we upscale them into being able to talk about identifying optimization with workflows. Our technicians and engineers today aren't really good at it. They've never had to do that. And so if you can upskill your CX team and your delivery team with really curious people that can help their customers identify those chores and then create outcomes that are beneficial to those customers, work just continues to shift left. Margins go up. Everybody's happy. The employees are now doing more meaningful work. Because they don't want to sit there with monolithic systems, putting CDs in drives and installing servers. Nobody wants to do that anymore. So there's lots of opportunity here that it's not doomsday, it's all how do you shift things as far left as you possibly can and then utilize that time more effectively.
Right. One of the recurring themes I'm hearing is just start. You don't have to boil the ocean, you just have to start with one thing. And then once that works out, then you do another, and then you do another. But you have to start because AI is going to be here. It's not going anywhere.
Well, remember, it's a 2-year journey for most those that started early. For most, it's 6 months to a year that they've been dabbling with AI, right? So it's not as if the race started a long time ago. There are folks that are further along. There's no question about that. But the models are also getting much more sophisticated, which means even if you start later, you can apply more context, right, and catch up faster. Right. So the new models run at a faster pace than the older models. So not always starting early is the right answer, but starting now. The capabilities, the models are sophisticated enough to handle these capabilities that we've been talking about, and they're only going to expand from that.
And if you've heard anything from us, I think the key thing is you don't have to be first to the market with a lot of these things, but you have to be right. And so it's more important to ensure that you are thoughtful about what those first steps are, but start small. And that doesn't mean that you boil the ocean all the way to the end. You talked about the cloud being an example that you would compare this evolution to. I think it's a little more like the internet. I mean, it's that fast. The adoption to cloud took a long time. But I think what you saw with the internet back in the late 90s and what you're seeing now with AI, you said 2 years ago, ChatGPT, it hasn't been that long since 4 was released. And it's been so fast. And that's what happened with the internet. And so I think you definitely want to start now, but you have to start with the right mindset, and you have to have a plan versus we're just going to throw out an AI assessment, and now we're going to find out what people need, and then they go, okay, well, so what are you going to do to deliver that? And we're like, oh, we don't know. We don't have anything to deliver on that. That's not the way you want to do it either. So,
and the last point I'll make is, obviously, we're all going to use AI to improve our efficiency and to give tools, but the SMB, the end customer, the mid-market enterprise, the large enterprise, is being and using AI to transform their business. And they need that assistance. And they need that assistance from people like Integris, right? And Glenn, to be able for them to adopt AI. Because AI is showing up as horizontal applications, built applications that they built themselves, or vertical applications that they buy for their industry. And they don't know what to do exactly. So they're going to need a bunch of consulting services associated with how they develop and bring those to market so that their end customers can be successful. Because Glenn's success is based on his end customers being successful. My success is based on Glenn being successful. So it goes all the way downstream.
Hey.
So we need that to occur, and they need to thrive. And that means that there's a set of value-added services that will be built. Just like they built services to help onboard their end customers to the cloud, they're going to build services to help them use AI inside their environments responsibly, securely. So there's a lot of progress here that's being made, but still a blue ocean of opportunity.
Awesome. Well, Glenn, Manny, thank you for joining us this morning. Looking
for having
forward
us.
to more information throughout the next couple of days at IT Nation Connect.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Wow. Awesome. We got an audience.
Got applause.
You want to do it again?